and welcome back to another episode of In Brandon. We have some hot topics to discuss today because, as you may or may not know, it's election time. And we've had some debates on the topics that are most important to the candidates in the Sprucewoods riding. And to help me discuss what is important with candidates in Sprucewoods is none other than Kerry Auriat himself. Pleasure to have you in studio. So glad to have you finally down for a chat about some, I thought, were some pretty contentious topics. And I do like your point that what better time to talk about contentious topics than an election?
So you started it with a contentious topic. We were talking earlier how to pronounce my name, and I know you got me again. It's Kerry Auriat, just in case the viewers at home, and I know you got it. You do this to me every time we chat. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's election day. What do you think?
I am tingling with excitement.
Okay.
Specifically because, as we have discussed, you know, it has a bellwether feel to it in that we are going to learn a lot about society at large by seeing whether the numbers come in better for the Conservatives, worse for the Conservatives, better for the NDP, worse for the NDP.
Yep.
Both of those eventualities hold great promise to inform us as to what direction we're headed in at large.
Absolutely. You know, you think about it and you see how much time and energy and effort the NDP put into this riding. Now, historically, now this riding has been, if memory serves, an independent riding, a newly formed riding since about 2011. During that time, you had Cliff Cullen and then you had Grant Jackson. And yeah, those are two pretty impressive characters as MLAs. Okay, and I mean to that point, I mean I think at one point Cliff was Deputy Premier. He was Minister of Education, if memory serves. I think he was. In any event, very impressive fellow. So you had some really good MLAs. And, you know, Grant then goes on to federal politics and obviously has gone from strength to strength. So you have a different setting. And into this, you have then the NDP looking at it and saying, you know, we want to see if we can get this. And we want to see this to such a degree that we're going to bring, I think, arguably right now, probably the most popular premier in Canada.
Big guns they're bringing out.
He's been out, and he's been out a lot. And I understand that that they've had a number of other MLAs out, and you know, certainly, you know, when you're bringing out the big guns,
and
they're
a
not
monetary
discarding
component to that argument as well.
And right? They spent a lot in advance of the writ being dropped. Of course, that's been a very contentious issue. But as we asked in the debate the other night, should we be, you know, just happy that money is being spent in this area by the provincial government? And you can get into sort of some philosophical discussions about that, but I think it tells you they're taking it seriously. So, you know, my sense of it as we were discussing, I mean, so let's say the Tories win this, and they win this by more than Grant won it.
Right.
What does that tell you? What do you take from that?
Well, I take that there may be some blowback in that I like to think of myself as a progressive individual, constantly moving towards greater awareness.
Okay.
And a conservative bump in popularity would signal to me that maybe we're going in a different direction.
Okay.
Or maybe something about society at large I'm missing, in that I don't understand why they were gravitated towards a conservative candidate that clearly struggled. I don't think we're mincing words in that respect with the most contentious topics that were brought up at that
Very
debate.
fair.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, my sense of it when I was watching, you know, when I moderated debate, I'm also watching it, and it was not the best night that I've seen from a Tory candidate, particularly with several what I would call social. So there's fiscal conservatism and there's social conservatism. And fiscal conservatism was not one that we really talked about very much. I don't recall a lot of people talking about debts and deficits, about productivity in our economy or in our society. I didn't get a lot of that.
I concur.
But I did get a lot of parental rights. I did get a lot of, discussion. My sense was they were talking a lot about LGBT. They talked a lot about transgender medical, procedures. And that was interesting to me because that really said we are in a socially conservative topic point, okay, area of contention, and one of our panelists, Dr. Kelly Saunders from the university, is incredibly well spoken and really had what I would call quite a meaty discussion about this with Colleen Robbins, and it was interesting nonetheless. You were there. It was contentious. It was interesting.
Spirited.
Very fair comment. Yep.
And in the moment, the thought that was going through my mind was that this is a great opportunity for two sides, diametrically opposed, to search for ways of working together and having a harmonious path forward. Not that was likely, but baby steps.
Well, okay, so let me counter that. And when I grew up, my dad always used to sort of we would argue topics, and sort of one of the skills that he loved the most was your ability to argue one point of the conversation and then to argue the other side. Yeah. So I would have liked to have seen a movement towards a greater understanding. But on the other hand, what's wrong with, and I was disappointed that Colleen didn't say, I don't share those values.
Yeah.
And I don't know what would have happened. She kept going back to this point, Kevin, where she was saying, well, I need to educate myself, and I need to educate myself. And I thought, okay, sure. But what about what your core values are? Because I think my sense of this is I want to know not how you're spinning yourself for me as a voter, but rather, who are you? Who am I voting for? If I vote for Kevin, who am I voting for? Am I voting for someone who has cleaned his social media so we don't know what he is, what his background is, what his deepest thoughts are?
Yeah.
Or am I voting for someone who says, this is who I am, these are my core beliefs, this is what I think, and I hope that the people of this particular riding will find that I'm in concert with their views, and they will support me, or that they will say, no, that character is not who we are.
Exactly.
And I think she had an opportunity to do it. But it seems as though we are so afraid to have this contentiousness, and I thought that's where Kelly gave her such a strong opportunity to go back and say, either A, Kelly, I agree with you, B, Kelly, I disagree with you, and rather than this, I need to educate myself. When by the time you get to an election, as a candidate, I think you should be reasonably educated on what I would assume would be certainly a major topic. My thought.
I would have to agree with one wrinkle in that Colleen in the moment probably should have concentrated on what was defensible about her core value system.
Yes.
And less on trying to show remorse, i.e. the apologies.
Very well.
The first one, maybe we could say the first one was probably just a mistake, but the second and subsequent apologies were repetitious and irrelevant.
Yes.
Which should have been flagged by anybody as, oh, I'm repeating myself. Maybe I should back up and think of what I could have done differently. And what she could have done differently was action, what was defensible about her core value system, what she holds true and dear to her heart, and say that is how she informs the rest of her opinions in a complicated topic, in a complicated world.
So
right?
In that, Kevin, what's wrong with her saying something to your point, which would be, thank you for the question. Obviously, we're going to disagree on this. Your understanding of it may be different than mine. But when I've been knocking on X number of hundreds or thousands of doors in Sprucewoods riding, they're talking about inflation, and they're talking about how much it costs to to buy groceries, and they're worried about jobs, they're worried about all of these other issues, and that's really where my focus is. I think that would have been nice to have seen something like that, as opposed to sort of defer back to something where, I need to educate, and I thought that didn't serve her well beyond the first one. And the first one was really, I thought, was great. It's to say, look, I don't know enough about this issue. I'm going to learn more. I have time for people who want to say that. But when that's your sole defense, then perhaps you ought not to have said some of the things you've said before.
Right. It points to some of the issues we've been discussing, that lack of preparation may have been a key factor.
That was my sense.
Yeah. And I think it's fair, and I think it's also understandable, because there's so much to be aware of.
Yes.
In this day and age.
Yes.
So when somebody does offer a sincere apology, like you said, I do accept it, because that's the world we live in. We can't all be aware of every nuanced point.
And because something's important to you doesn't necessarily make it important to your neighbor. And I think in that particular point, if she could have said, now the problem becomes, thanks to social media, that your thoughts, we know them forever.
Yes. Wonderful feature.
Devin Ross wrote a great column in the Brandon Sun this weekend where he talked about that. And essentially, what he's saying is, at least as I took it, is, what do we know about you if you go in? The great thing about social media is I may know everything about you in terms of, here's your political views, here's your views on, whether or not you like dogs versus cats, all of that kind of fun stuff.
Dogs.
Join the club. Love dogs. And so we learn all that stuff. And then when you go in and scrub it, it sort of lead me to think, what are you hiding?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, is there something about you that's so egregious that A, I need to hide it, or B, can I just find out, when she said, listen, that part about Ontario teachers, and I think it was Michelle Badusky who had posted this, and I think the world of Michelle, and she had posted that she had taken some screenshots, and in which she being Colleen, had said something about Ontario teachers being lazy, greedy.
Yeah.
You're going to have to live with those words. Now, the problem becomes that we don't know the context of the conversation, so on and so forth, and that's where social media, whenever you write something down, fails us tremendously. But Ray Bertheled, because I certainly don't want to gang up on Colleen. Ray Bertheled had said, well, I erased something on my social media. I think he used the word bitches or something to that
degree. We're going to watch it. We have the clip loaded, so maybe after this we'll 100%. Go through some of them.
Sounds great. What else we got? Talk to me.
Well, you know what? Maybe that's a good switching off point. Let's see if we could watch the question be posed by Devin Ross, and see if we can enjoy that together.
Let's do it.
This actually is for all three candidates. Could I just have a show of hands for which of you either deleted social media accounts or social media posts prior to tonight?
There's the question, and you've already kind of given us a hint of what one of the answers is going to be. And you know what? In honor of that, why don't we listen to Ray's answer?
Let's do it.
Let's just listen to it first.
Over to the panel. Well, hold on. I see that Ray wants to add something.
They missed me. I deleted a comment about Hillary Clinton, and I was congratulating them. At that time, there was, I think, OAC, and a bunch of them were talking, and it says, go get him, bitches. And it was suggested I delete that. So.
God awful. Over
Beautiful clip. I love Ray's word choice. It's for effect and very dramatic,
Yes.
and a great way to end off that time. It was the last response to that question. However, what did you think? We'll talk about Ray's response first, because maybe we'll use Colleen's response last, since that has been a talking point.
So, the word bitches is an odd one. Okay, it's an odd one, because I've heard younger women use that expression with each other, almost as a sense of like, you know, either we're a tough woman, we're a strong woman, but it's kind of one of those expressions that I think, you know, a woman can say to another woman, or maybe where it would be highly inappropriate for a man to say it about. But in this case, I think he was saying, you know, you go get them, and then, you know, decided to throw in that word. I you know, I'm not in love with it, but it doesn't keep me up at night. No. I'm fine with it. And, you know, Ray is, you know, very fortunate to, I've known Ray for, you know, for a little bit of time. I've just met in this election both Colleen and Stephen, and, you know, I think all of them are interesting people who would, you know, who would say some fun things, and I think in that same, I don't know if you have the clip in regards to Stephen, but he basically Stephen will be next. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, let's do it.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to comment on Ray's word choice, in that the reason I loved it was because it was a non-standard word. So you really spark interest
100%.
when you throw out non-standard words, which he did effectively. The word choice, I interpreted it as one teammate to another teammate.
Very fair.
Let's go.
That's what I took from it.
That's what I took.
I mean, he could have said, you know, some other, you know, ladies, gals, girls, women. He could have said any one of those words. And I agree with you. He very well, what I took from it is exactly what you said, which is to say, let's go get him, team.
Exactly. Yeah. And to use a non-standard word for effect.
Paid attention.
Paid attention. Yeah, it got a lot of attention.
Got a lot of attention.
The other thing I enjoyed about it was Ray's method of communication sometimes does involve that strategy of using non-standard words to capture attention. And I think he does it very well, and it's one of the qualities of him that I enjoy. And as you said, I've loved chatting with each candidate. Yes. Because they're such interesting people with diverse viewpoints that how could you not enjoy? How could you not? If
you're a person though who's interested in people. Yeah. And so that for me is one of the big reasons why I love moderating debates, and that is I'm interested in people, and I know in talking to you that, hey, I like talking to people, different views, that forces you to think. Yeah. And you're up for it, and I think Ray very much is one of those sort of people. So I have all the time in the world for him.
I think that's absolutely fair, and I think maybe we should check out Stephen's response next, if we can pull that up.
I did have an exchange 2 days ago with a NDP supporter, and what that engagement was saying that the Liberal Party is attacking the NDP, and that my non-statement on Ms. Robbins' Twitter statements was being complicit. And my rebuttal to that was that, you know, as a leader, I'm not going to shoot things out into social media. And after the discussion we had, or the back and forth we had, I realized that I kind of got sucked in there, and so I deleted everything I said. And what I did say was just that. It was nothing disrespectful or anything like that, but I just didn't feel like that was the right place to vet that out. So if that person wanted to have an actual discussion with me, a phone call would be the right way to do it. So that is why.
Beautiful. I really like the professional manner in which he conducts himself. And obviously, by that story, that spills over into his online presence as well. What I didn't like about it was that it wasn't a very contentious tweet. That more seemed like the deletion was a strategic move more than a avoidance maneuver. And the other thing that's common to both Stephen and Ray that I've noticed is that Is the more damage in removing information for voters to use to inform their vote?
Yeah.
Is there a net harm in deleting content that voters are able to use to make a full give a full impression of their candidate?
Okay, so I think that's the spot on question.
Okay.
Right, and I think that's what Devin Ross was getting at in his column this weekend, and that's certainly something that I struggle with. Who are we getting as a candidate? I do on a certain level want to know what your values are. And I wasn't familiar with so I'm not on Twitter. I signed up for Twitter like so long ago.
Yep.
And I put on like 3 tweets back when and this is before it really became what it is. And I found myself saying, this is so, why would anyone care what I'm doing? Yeah. I'm not that interesting. And this was before it became such a platform for politics and all this kind of stuff, right? And it really was stuff like, going over to Sobeys. So it's
what
changed.
I had for dinner.
Yeah, look at, here's a picture of me petting a dog. So the world has changed in regards to that. I think that I really would like, if you're a political person and you're running for office, you have some views, why don't you put them out? So I don't know what this conversation was between Stephen and this NDP supporter. It sounds like it was a contentious discussion. Be interesting to hear it. The things that Colleen wrote, so I would say that we're talking about 2 very different types of things. Okay, so the things that the thing that Ray wrote was, go get him, guys.
Yeah.
Go get him, team. I'm fine with that. I don't care. The things that Stephen wrote, from what I'm taking from the clip, is, here's my point of view, and I disagree with you on this particular issue. But not knowing what was said or how it was said,
tough to evaluate.
It's tough to evaluate. I wasn't particularly, in any position to comment on it. A couple of the comments that I felt Colleen made, when you say that you hate unions or you think teachers are lazy and greedy, now we're starting to get to who you are. And quite frankly, say it. If you feel that way,
exactly,
why don't you say it?
Defend yourself.
Right? I think if you want to make an argument, whatever the heck the argument is, if you feel that way, it's defensible. I'm interested in hearing how you defend yourself, and in fact, my follow-up, I asked her, was, do you think that you have the temperament, given this type of thing, and given how important, for example, the Manitoba Nurses Union is in Manitoba, or the Manitoba Teachers Society, you're going to have to work with a lot of people who are in a unionized environment, and quite frankly, who are teachers and nurses and healthcare professionals. Do you have the temperament for it? So I think that those 3 exchanges are very different in terms of what they put on Facebook. What I'm surprised by, quite frankly, is that the party, the Conservatives, didn't do a better job of finding these things out. I thought that would have been scrubbed. Before
I knew her name.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would have thought that these candidates would be vetted every which way past the weekend, and so that surprised me.
I'm not sure if I should answer, because we're running out of time, so maybe we should get to Colleen's response.
Okay, sure.
Quick, let's get that over with if we can, and then we'll discuss and wrap up.
Well, I did it right from the beginning, as soon as I decided to run, for the fact that I wanted to protect my family. There's cruel people out here, and they say cruel things, and I did not want my family to have to go through.
I really caught on to Colleen's use of using fear as a defense for her actions, and I'm not sure fear is a good justification for actions just as a standalone motivation. Now, the complicated part is the test as to whether or not her fear informed her correctly. Like,
Okay.
did she have a reason to be afraid? Did she run away from the fear versus defend her actions in the face of fear, which would have shown courage and forthrightness? And so there's two errors that I find in her response right away. And the third was that it was just more of the same at that point. She had been on her heels already at that point. And to not, as you suggested, look, we disagree. I'd love to learn more about this. Maybe when we offline have a discussion about it, we can get to the bottom of this. Right now, my values are, fiscal responsibility, social responsibility, that
100%.
type of party line. And it would have diffused the situation, which I felt had already escalated.
What I didn't understand in her response, and if you go back to it, she says, she's saying there's a lot of mean people out there, and they're going to write mean things. Okay. However, and I can tell you in my years of writing for the paper that's very true. There's a lot of keyboard warriors out there who say some tough stuff, as I'm sure you're very aware. The disappointing part, I thought, was then she says at the very start, I cleaned it right from the beginning. She goes right from the beginning.
She vetted herself.
Okay?
Yeah.
But if you vetted yourself, how could you leave on there that you hate unions? How could you leave on there that teachers are lazy greedy?
Correction, she attempted to vet herself, but didn't quite.
So I'd like to know, for crying out loud, if she left those parts on and thought, I guess those were appropriate, what did she take off?
Yeah.
But
that's a fair question to all the candidates, though. We don't know what other social media posts they're not talking about either.
Bingo. So we don't know. I didn't think it was a great answer. I think that if she had said, listen, this is who I am, and if we want to talk about important topics, I'm prepared to talk about them. If you want to know, have I taken some things off? Sure, I have. Why? Because some of them are of a personal nature, where I congratulate my neighbor on their, on their hydrangeas, or somebody went on a really fun vacation. Is that something that you need to know in order to vote for me?
Yeah.
And so, but I think all three of them will regardless of how the election turns out tonight, will sharpen their spear in regards to that, right? Their point will be very good the more they do it. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the first time any of the three of them have run for public office, and I'm a much better moderator now than I was 5 years ago, and I still make plenty of mistakes when I'm up there. And so I can't imagine that they won't be better, regardless of sort of the outcome of this. It's a pretty good crucible.
Yeah. And more to your point, if you treat every interaction as an opportunity to learn, it really frames a conversation in a safe space. Right? Yeah. It protects you from all of those things that Colleen is afraid of by educating yourself and that being the primary focus.
100%. And I think, if you embrace like, I'm here to learn, I like to talk to people. Yep. You can absolutely take things away from every conversation you're in. So it would be interesting to know what exactly she was concerned about, or maybe she was already been on the receiving end of some pretty nasty stuff. That would be interesting too. And maybe she she felt it wasn't forthcoming to present herself in that way. I don't know. But it would seem to me to present it as if you are afraid suggests to me either A, maybe you have something to be afraid of, maybe you've been on the receiving end of some nasty stuff, or maybe that's a good excuse because once I portray myself as the victim, you cannot question me.
Exactly.
Which is is a debate subject.
It's a strategy.
It's a strategy. Yeah. I don't like it. But it's certainly one that you can do.
It pains me to say this, but we've actually run out of time. And right in the middle of I think, we're actually making a lot of progress in just educating ourselves as to the world we live in, especially from the point of view of a political candidate in this day and age. And I think it's a valuable discussion. I'm glad you came down and had it with me, and I hope you'll come back again.
Thanks for having me. I would love to do it again. I always enjoy chatting with people and you know, picking up different topics and what they're thinking about and what they're hearing about. And you do such a good job of this. And so, you know, Westman Communications is always great about like really getting a sense of what's going on in the community. So the fact that you would invite me down is terrific. Thank you very much. And just name the time and tell me what to wear, and I'm here.
What to wear? Anything but Montreal Canadiens. That's it.
How dare you?
Well, we are out of time, but let's wrap up with a friendly note. See you at the election this evening. Make sure your vote counts. Till then, take care.